I'm Brandy Stitt. I'm the program manager for the Women's Business Center located in Kansas City. And today we are going to be focusing on the simple steps to starting a business. Our facilitator is Judy Bumpus. She's our client services manager for the Women's Business Center. She also has her own consulting business and does a lot of counseling and training, not just for us, but for other organizations and other entrepreneurs throughout our community. We are recording this webinar, and we will post the recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel, which you can either go to YouTube and Google Kansas City Women's Business Center, or you can go to our website, which is kansascitywbc.com. I will also drop the link into our chat box as well so that you can link directly to it. We have probably around 80 to 90 videos of previous recordings that cover a wide variety of business related topics. So if you're looking for more education and just want to watch a video, then that might be a good place for you to go. If you have questions or comments for Judy, please do drop those into the chat box. I will monitor that for Judy, and if something pops up, I'll alert her because she may not easily see it while she's giving her presentation. And then I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Judy.
Okay, so we're going to talk about steps to starting a business. And my goal today is to give you an overview of the steps it takes to make your business legal, from federal all the way down to local. You can ask questions at any time, put it in the chat. You don't have to hold them. The first thing you need to do is to decide on a structure for your business. We'll talk about forms of business, the way it impacts your personal liability and your financial structure and your taxes. Then we're going to go through the forms of business, at least the very popular ones and the ones that small business owners use. There's other forms of business, like attorneys have their own forms and CPA have their own forms, but most of the times entrepreneurs can work with the ones that we have. I will talk to you about a sole proprietorship, about a partnership, and an LLC or a limited liability company. We'll also discuss a C Corp and an S Corp. Okay, so the way that we're gonna look at this, we're gonna talk about what the advantages are and what the disadvantages are of each form of business. So if you decide to start a business and you don't do anything to formally register your business, at the end of the year, when you go to file your taxes, there's usually a question that says, did you receive money on a 1099 or did you receive money from a business? If you answer that question, yes, then the IRS will assign you that you are a sole proprietor. So the benefits of that is that you receive all profits. You are only taxed once by the IRS. You pay taxes on your personal tax forms on a Schedule C when you're a sole proprietor. Since it's your business, of course, you make all the decisions. And since you really are not doing anything to formalize your business structure, there isn't a cost. And once what you're selling is legal, there is few legal restrictions. And then really it is simple to organize because you're not really having to do anything. So along with advantages, there's some disadvantages. You remember I said your form of business has to do with how you pay taxes and your liability. So when you're a sole proprietor, you and the business are one entity, for the want of a better word. So you are merged. There's no separate, the business and then Judy. So if anything happens in the business, you personally will have unlimited liability. So that's something to consider. You will have limits in raising funds because really it's not a structured business and there's no legal status. The next form of business I'll talk about is a partnership. A partnership is a lot like a sole proprietor. And you can have one partner or you can have multiple partners. It is simpler to organize. you can have a separate legal status if you set it up that way, and you're taxed only once on your personal tax form. And each partner is taxed at the partner's tax rate. Disadvantages: if you're the general partner and you hold most of the company, you have unlimited liability. It's difficult to transfer ownership because everybody has to agree. One of the big issues in partnerships is divided decision making. We always get to a point where there's a decision that need to be made and everybody has to agree. And that sometimes becomes a challenge. A lot of times it becomes a challenge. I suggest strongly that you have a partner relationship if you're considering going into a partnership, so that everything is spelled out upfront and there isn't any issues with that. An LLC is really a bridge between a corporation and a sole proprietorship. It is the form that most small business people find fit their needs. So if you want to be a limited liability company and legally separate yourself from the business, it limits your liability. You create a separate legal entity for the business. And usually an LLC is taxed as a sole proprietorship. So it's taxed on your own, on your personal taxes. You can have a one-member LLC or you have 1,000 people in your LLC. There isn't any restrictions. In an LLC, you are not responsible for any one of your partners or members' actions or negligence. So that's good. The disadvantage is if you have to pay someone to form it, it can be costly. Most people have figured out how to do it themselves. And I'll tell you where you go in a minute. You have more paperwork because you've got to file, actually go through an application process, and then it is on your personal taxes. Corporations. We're going to talk about a C Corp initially. A C Corp, you definitely separate yourself from the business. So you have limited liability unless you're negligent. You can sell shares to transfer ownership. You can sell stock to raise capital. And in a C Corp, you can pay company fringe benefits. And there are some tax benefits for being a corporation. Disadvantage for a C Corp, there is double taxation. So the corporation pays taxes and then you get your profits and then you pay taxes. So you're actually paying taxes twice on the same money. You will need to pay someone to help you form this, and that is costly. And there is a lot more paperwork with a corporation. You have to send out annual notices, you have to do meetings, so there's a lot more paperwork. If you do not keep up with the paperwork, you will lose your status as a C Corp. The second form we're going to talk about is an S Corp. Once again, you separate yourself from the business. It's very similar to C Corp. You're taxed only once. So there isn't double taxation in an S Corp. You can sell stock to raise capital and you can transfer ownership the same way. Disadvantages is it will be costly. You have to know and comply with all the S Corp requirements. There's definitely more administrative duties because you do have to have meetings and you do have to send out notices to your shareholders. And in an S Corp, there is no company paid fringe benefits. Josh, are you doing okay? Oh, there's one thing in the chat. Let me look. Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yeah.
I see it. We're going to talk now about your name. Your name is very, very important to your business. Customers see your name, see your flyers, see your website way before they meet you. So your name is important and you need to figure out how to create a name, remembering that the name is for your customer, not for you. To create a name and to protect your name, you need to register your name with the Secretary of State. So it would be Secretary of State Missouri, Secretary of State Kansas, or whatever state you're in. In Missouri, you're required to file a fictitious name And you do that also on the Secretary of State's website. In Kansas, you do not have to file, but you do need to register your name with the Secretary of State. Before you decide on a name totally, you need to make sure there's a URL available for it, because people buy those up and then they sell it back to you at a lot of money. You should do a Google search to make sure that no one else already owns the name that you want. And then you should check out the Secretary of State's website to make sure that no one has registered that name. This is important because if you start using a name that belongs to someone else, they can make you stop. You'll get a letter that says cease and desist using my name. The problem with this is when you change your name for an entrepreneur, it's expensive. You got to change all your marketing material. You've got to change your website. You got to change all your branding. So it's expensive. So you want to be sure that that name is available for you.
Judy, I'm going to jump in for just a second. So, Josh, it looks like you registered with a Florida address. So I would just say that the same would apply for Florida. You'll want to check the Secretary of State's office.
Yes. Because each state is just a little bit different, but the Secretary of State's office is where you would start. Let's talk about getting legal with different levels of the government. So for the federal government, the IRS likes for you to have an EIN number. You would go to irs.gov and just put it in the search bar and it will pop up. Pull it out and you'll get your EIN number instantly. Basically, an EIN number is a social security number for your business. That's all it is. You would use your EIN number wherever you would normally use your social security number in your business. So if you have suppliers, customers, you're doing invoices, you'll use your EIN number there. When you are self-employed, you are required to pay quarterly taxes. Once again, you can go to irs.gov and set up a tax account for yourself. I am not suggesting you do this right away because once you set it up, they're going to be expecting for you to do quarterly payments. So if you're just in that very startup stage and you're not making money yet, you're not selling yet, just remember that you need to do this, but you don't have to do it until you're ready. When you work for someone else, they pay a half of your FICA and Medicare and Social Security. When you work for yourself, you have to pay the whole amount, and it's 15.38% of whatever your sales are. So that is your self-employment taxes. If you have employees, then you need to also look at your federal employment taxes, or if you plan on having employees. You will get a federal ID number. You will get an income tax number. You will have to pay their FICA. You'll have to pay unemployment taxes, and you'll have to pay workman comp insurance. If you have employees. When you have employees, there's a whole different level that you have to do than just open it. Okay, so the state. Every state has slightly different rules. I would go to the state of Florida to start. That's where I would start. Depending on what you're wanting to do, Josh, I don't know if you're selling a service. I don't know if you're selling a product. A product is a solid thing. A service is something that you do. Like my service is consulting, but I could also sell cakes or water bottles or whatever. That's a product. So you go to the state and you get a state ID number. If you are selling a product, then you're going to need to get a sales license for sales tax. If you have employees, you would have to register, would be with the state of Florida for you. So that with the Department of Labor, state of Florida Department of Labor is where you would register for your employees. If you're selling an item, you have to collect sales tax, and you would go to the Department of Revenue Florida to see how you turn those taxes in. City. Every city has different rules. I don't know what city you're in, But the starting place for the city would be the city of whatever city it is. So here I would say I would go to the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and I would pull up their front page. And normally on most cities' front page, they have a tab that says something like doing business in Kansas City, doing business in Overland Park. If you drop that down, usually you can find out what the city requires. Most cities require that you buy a business license. Depending on where you are, some cities have local taxes. If you're going to have a physical space, you'd have to comply with zoning regulations. If you have a physical space, you would also have to pay property taxes. Um, you might need a business license or a merchant's license, depending on the industry. You might need to comply with health laws or safety regulations. Hey, Josh, pop in the text what your business concept is so that I can be able to address it more individually. So just tell me what you want to do. That would be helpful.
We have another participant that joined as well. Stacy joined us.
Stacey, also pop in the chat what your business concept is or what your business is. Every city has its own rules and regulations, so you need to start with your city's homepage. Okay, Josh is going to do t-shirts. But Josh, you're selling an item, so you really are going to have to look at that tax piece to make sure that you're collecting the right amount of sales tax to turn in. Oh, no. The PowerPoint is not moving. I actually gave some resources for the this area. So dependent on your industry, I've listed resources for you. Josh, these would not, and this doesn't impact most entrepreneurs. Okay, so the other thing that's really, really important to have in your business is insurance. You should have at least a general liability policy that's like an umbrella that covers anything that happens in the business. This is America. We like to sue. All entrepreneurs need insurance. Actually, it's required by law that either you have insurance or you have $1 million saved. I don't know about you, but I do not have $1 million. So I must have insurance. So what do we want to do when we think about our insurance? We want to categorize what our risks are. We want to think about what must be insured, and then we consider the type of business insurance. As I said, insurance are required, some of it by law. Sometimes lenders will want you to have insurance because then it covers them if there's a loss. Landlords, a lot of times, will want you to have insurance if you go to rent because they don't want it to be on their insurance. So you have to think it through. What do I mean by categorizing risk? Depending on the type of industry that you're in, your risk factors would be higher. So I sell information. I do consulting. My risk factors are not really high. I can have a general liability policy, or I can have what's called errors and omissions in case I make a mistake, and that covers me. I'm not having people come to my house. I'm going to the organization to do the training. So what I have a home office. In my home office, I have a computer, a printer, and stuff, like pencils and pens and all that good stuff that goes in an office. When I think about it, I don't have that much. That it's not a risky business. Let's say you're selling food. There's a lot more risk in that because people can say they got sick. People can say they got an allergic reaction. Anything can happen. So categorize what it is that you need to protect, and then decide. But a general liability policy. Usually most entrepreneurs can get away with just having that. If you call a broker, they will interview you and then they'll suggest what they think that you should carry. Life coach. Okay, that's Stacy. Okay, so Stacy, you're selling an item. You're like me. You're selling information, basically. Um, so my computer is not wanting to move my PowerPoint up. Okay, so let's talk now about people that are not employees, but you need them to help you in your business. We just got through talking about an insurance agent. Normally, you will have to have someone to sell you liability insurance. A lot of entrepreneurs either use an accountant, a bookkeeper, a CPA, someone to help them with their paperwork. It depends on how complicated your business is. Um, some people only use them like twice a year. Some people use them once a year. Some people meet with them every month until they get a handle on how the financials work in their business. Some businesses you will need an attorney, and you will need a banker. The time to create a relationship with your banker is when you first start the business. Don't wait until you're wanting money from them. You can go in, introduce yourself, tell them who you are, that you banked at their bank for however long, and just introduce your business. And so that they know if you have to go ask, they have already met you. If you have to go ask for money or a loan. Marketing, you need a marketing specialist. Marketing is very, very important and it is not inexpensive. You can have the best product in the world unless people know you exist, which is the marketing piece. Um, you don't have a business. Brandy mentioned our YouTube channel. There are some really good classes on marketing. On social media marketing and on marketing. I would suggest you look at them. And I learned a lot when I sat through the social media one, especially Facebook and I think it was LinkedIn. Then most of us need some business resource organization. So in our area, we're very lucky. We have lots of organizations that can help you. I am certain that, Josh, if you just look, maybe there's a SBTDC in your area, maybe there's a SBDC. So look and see what kind of business resource organization exists in your area. We do free consultation to help people start or grow their business. And there's a lot of organizations that will work with you for free or very low cost. The other thing I always suggest to entrepreneurs is that you take an entrepreneurship class. We are not trained to be entrepreneurs. We are trained to be consumers, to spend our money. Entrepreneurship is like anything else. You need to learn how to do it. Most of us are good at our craft. So we may be great doing t-shirts, or we may be great being a life course. The place that entrepreneurs get into trouble is the management piece of the business. How do I manage this business? How do I keep my cash flowing in my business? All that kind of stuff. Well, how do I keep my records? So when I go to file my taxes, I know where my deductions are. So that's usually where entrepreneurs run into trouble. So it's a good idea to reach out for help. So
Sorry, Judy, I've been kind of conversing via chat in terms of how to find some local resources through sba.gov. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what city Josh is in, but I'm sure if he goes on there and looks, I'm sure if you go on there, Josh, you'll find it. You'll find resources. Thank you, Brandy, for putting in SBA.gov. I also want to know. Josh is in Florida, and I forgot what the other person's name is. I don't know where you are, but if you're in the Kansas City area, there's an organization called KC SourceLink, and they list classes and things that are coming up. at this point, I am going to be offering a class that's coming up pretty soon. Excuse me. It is an 8-week class that covers from Am I an Entrepreneur all the way to projections for your business. We cover all the financials. So we do profit and loss, break even, cash flow, so that you learn about how to manage your financial aspects of your business. That's the type of class I'm suggesting, that someone can walk you through and how to run a business. At the end of the class, if you do your homework every week, you will have a feasibility/business plan for your class, which will walk you through how to manage your business. Having a plan, it's like a roadmap to success. It helps you be successful. It increases your chances of being successful 100-fold. If you are if you have a business plan. I'm pulling this back up because I want to talk a little bit about what we do at the Women's Business Center. We do workshops and seminars, anything that has to do with business, has to do with financials, management, how do you register, anything that's to do with business. We do short workshops. We also do the class that I was telling you about, Launch You, which is 8 sessions. We do financial series, teaching you about how to use your financials. We do free individual consultation and also financial education, financial literacy education. And we have a growth mentoring program. And I am giving you our website and our telephone number. I would go to the website and at least sign up for the newsletter, because that will keep you updated about what's happening in the entrepreneur's world.
Judy, we can't see your screen.
What happened? It's just, okay, so let me see what happened. Where was my sharing? I don't know what happened. Share screen. Stop share. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna start over sharing again, Brandy, so that it's just the contact information is what I'm giving people now. Okay, it's my slideshow. Can you see it now, Brandy?
Yes.
Okay. So just giving you the contact information. Also, since I'm thinking about it, next week we have a panel of entrepreneurs, and it's going to be a workshop online. So if you're interested in that, you can also get in contact with me and I'll send you information on it. Let me put my contact information in the chat. Want to talk to me directly, feel free to get in contact with me. If you have more questions, if you want to talk to me, if you want an individual consultation. The panel that we're doing next week, it is female Black entrepreneurs. We're doing it to celebrate Black History Month, and they'll talk about their successes and their challenges and just generally what it's like running a business. And these are people who have been in business for a little while. So if you're interested in that, I'd be happy to send you information on that also.
And I just popped in the link for our Eventbrite registration for that in the chat box too. So you can access it through the chat box.
Okay, another one. There we go. Okay, questions. I've given you a lot of information in a very short period of time. So, as you start working on this stuff, if you have questions, call me. Because sometimes when you start doing it, it's like, oh, I forgot what she said, or I have a challenge here. Feel free to give me a call and I'd be happy to help you.
And I will say that Judy and I are both very connected with other women's business centers across the country. So if you're not in Kansas City, we can always connect you with other local resources, whether it's a women's business center, a small business development center, SCORE. We can always get you connected to a local resource if you prefer to try to meet with someone locally to access those resources. We can help you manage that part of it as well.
Oh. Questions. I must have been either very, very clear because there isn't any questions, or you're so overwhelmed that you don't know what questions to ask. But like I said, if you think of something and you have a question, feel free to get in contact with me and I'd be happy to answer your questions or to work with you.
Great, thanks, Judy. So as I mentioned, we're recording this session and we will be posting it on the YouTube channel for the Kansas City Women's Business Center. You can access that if you just go to our website. You can get to just YouTube and Google Kansas City Women's Business Center. It usually takes us a couple days to edit the videos and get those posted. But as Judy mentioned, we have a tremendous amount of pre-recorded webinars already posted on our YouTube channel. So there's a lot of great content on social media, financing your business, financial basics, getting certified as a women-owned business. There's quite a bit there. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. So feel free to check that out. And then please do feel free to reach out to us if you have questions as you're getting started, even if it's just connecting you to someone that is local to where you're located. Well, thank you, Judy, and thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. And hopefully we will see you next week for our session on our panel discussion on celebrating Black women entrepreneurs. Judy did a lot of good work putting this panel together, so I'm really excited about it.